To make that. Did you make that? Did you make that?
What's going on, fellas? What up, though? What up, though? What's going on, people? How we doing today? It's Sunday afternoon, man. We about to get it cracking. I woke up feeling studious today. Actually, this was the live I was supposed to do yesterday. But as y'all know, we had alternative plans yesterday. So we did something else. But today is what I was supposed to be doing yesterday. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'll be back in about 30 seconds. I just got to do something real quick. All right, boom. We good. I'm gonna just adjust my lighting real quick for y'all. I always forget to do this before I hop on Beam Up, fixing my lighting. There we go. And boom, we good. So we got 21 people in here. Don't forget to hit that like button for your boy if you haven't done it already. Today, as y'all see by the title, we are going to be breaking down a scientific article that I read the other day, took some notes on the negative effects of a porn addiction. Now, only reason I'm doing this is because the video I dropped, was that 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 2 days ago, about my personal opinion of what the worst side effect of porn addiction was. It got really good reception, and a lot of people were asking me to talk a little bit more about it. So I was like, I'm gonna do something different than I haven't done on my channel before. And I'm gonna actually use some of my skills I've learned in academia to my advantage. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna screen share for y'all. I'm gonna open up this article and I'm gonna put it up on the screen for y'all so y'all can see it. We go share screen. Boom. Here we go. So the article I have before y'all, let me go full screen. F11. Wrong screen. There we go. So we good now. We got the full screen going. We got 25 people in here. Make sure y'all hit that like button. So the article I have before y'all is titled Hidden in Shame, Heterosexual Men's Experiences of Self-Perceived Problematic Pornographic Use. I'm trying to just get this zoom right. So it's angled nice. All right, we good. By Luke Snusky and Penny Farvit. I don't know how to pronounce that. Somewhere in Auckland. I don't know where Auckland is. It's probably an interesting place. You know what I'm saying? And this is obviously from a journal titled Psychology of Men and Masculinities, written in 2019. So this is new. This is new. This is not, or written in 2020, rather. Excuse that dog in the background that's coming from outside. So this article is pretty much span breaking new when it comes to reading research articles. So we're going to start by just briefly going over the, let me close my window. Man. All right, we back. So we're going to start by reading this right here. So the rapid rise in the availability of pornography has given the world instant access to a vast and diverse supply of pornographic material. We're going to skip right here to this green where I highlighted, where it says the large majority of online pornography consumers who identify as addicted to pornography are heterosexual men. Obviously. Now, I mean, there are some females out there who are addicted to pornography, but that's much less likely. The percentages are very skewed. I don't have the percentages in front of me. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but the percentage of men addicted to pornography in comparison to women is an astronomical difference. So this study, you know, these researchers, they took 15 dudes in New Zealand. This is somewhere in New Zealand. They took 15 heterosexual men and they did a data-driven inductive thematic analysis. So basically saying that they ask them questions and they answer them, you know, pretty kind of like a fancy way of saying interview. You feel me? So here in this red, it says over time, the men perceived the pornography had resulted in having unrealistic expectations when it came to sex and sexuality, the way they view women, and led to diminished sexual function. So this is like a summary of what this article is saying right here. But we're going to get more and more in depth when we slide down, and y'all are going to see all my notes and all my highlights. Appreciate that, Calvin knows best. You stay up late to watch Tip Drill by Nelly on TV. That was explicit content back in the day. Kids nowadays have way more explicit videos on IG, man. That's facts. All right. So this says here, Pornhub is the most popular free pornographic site, which has over 58 million views per day. And that's only in New Zealand. That's only in New Zealand. Imagine America, bro. Imagine in the US. It's probably double or double. It's probably triple or quadruple this, 58 million. And it represents the 5th most regular visitors worldwide. So New Zealand is the 5th highest visitor country-wise or nation-wise when it comes to visiting Pornhub. You feel me? So let's scroll down some more to where the good stuff starts. All right, so here we go. Porn or pornography addiction refers to any consumption of pornography that causes negative interpersonal, vocational, or personal consequences for the user. So that's basically a fancy way of saying it. Porn addiction is when you watch so much porn that it's impacting your daily life, your social life, your relations with your family, friends, or girlfriends. It's impacting your work life. So your ability to work and focus and concentrate for long periods of time and really get some work done. You feel me? Let's scroll down here where we say excessive pornography consumption may have similar effects to substance dependencies. Substance dependencies also meaning drug habits. So heroin, lean, Sans, perks, all your drugs that dudes be out here doing that's addicted to it. Pornography addiction, according to science, has the same effect on the brain that being addicted to drugs have. You understand what I'm saying? Having neuroplastic changes to the brain that reinforce use. You understand what I'm saying? As well as significant negative association between use and gray matter volume in the brain. That's a lot of neuroscience talk that I'm not familiar with, so we ain't even gonna try to break that down in layman's terms. You understand? Where are we at? We'll scroll down. We'll hit this right here. Current literature related to pornography categorizes problematic pornography use as a subset of other sexually related disorders, hypersexual disorders, sexual addiction, sexual compulsivity, excuse me, due to similarities between the criteria of these related classifications. You feel me? However, they say that despite the underlying similarities, literature indicates that problematic pornography use may be distinct and different from other sexual disorders. So that's saying that addiction to pornography, overconsumption of porn causes such a different reaction in the brain that they don't even they don't really want to classify it as a a sexual related disorder. They classify it as a whole different realm of disorder, of addiction. You know what I'm saying? So here we are. Self-perceived problematic pornography use, which is SPPPU, which will be used a lot in this article. So I'm gonna just say SPPPU. Y'all know that means self-perceived problematic pornography use. Refers to an individual who self-identifies, as having an addiction to pornography or a problematic or fault relationship where they feel unable to regulate their use. So these are all these guys they interviewed in this article were guys who said themselves, had a problem with porn. They weren't told that, oh, we think you have a pornography addiction. These were all guys who said, I have a porn addiction, or I have problematic use when it comes to watching pornography. You understand what I'm saying? This definition relies on the user's experiences and subjective self-perception when determining the degree to which the pursuit and subsequent consumption of pornography intrudes on daily life, or everyday life rather. So they're basically saying that they watch porn like every day. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much every day, and it messes with their daily life, daily habits, family, friends, like we said already. You understand what I'm saying? So this is just the definition of SPPPU. Like I said, this is going to be said a lot in the article, so don't forget what this means. Self-perceived problematic pornography use. Keep that in mind. Let's go here. Actually, let's scroll down a little bit. When men who identify with SPPPU watch porn, and it's often an effort to cope with unwanted thoughts or feelings. We're going to talk about that later on in the article when they go into detail. Let's scroll up here. Men with SPPPU fear their porn is out of control and have experienced multiple failed attempts to either cut back or quit. You know what I'm saying? So that's a commonality with a lot of guys who try to stop watching porn. They have problems with stopping. They might stop for one day. They might even stop for 3 days, might even get to a week. But then they fall back into the addiction. What does that sound like? It sounds like a drug addiction. It's exactly the same thing. Just here, when they say functional magnetic image data scans show that brains of porn addicts may be comparable with drug addicts. This is the same with drug addicts. They have trouble cutting back and quitting. They have to cut back and quit over and over because they keep relapsing and keep relapsing. You know what I'm saying? We'll scroll down. The methods weren't really important. All they really did was interview these guys. I highlighted the important parts of the method just so y'all know. So the participants were aged 22 to 51. The mean age was about 32 and a half. 9 identified as, this really isn't it. Well, Pakeha, I don't know what that is. Or these are New Zealanders of European descent. 3 of them identified as Asian, 1 as Pacifica, 1 as Maori, and 1 as Middle Eastern. And so 6 of these guys were actually employed professionals. So meaning they have they're grown ass men with jobs in the real world where, they work at a desk or work in a cubicle or whatever may have you. 5 of them were undergraduate tertiary students. So undergraduate students in college, you know what I'm saying? So me, for example, I'm a junior in college. I'm an undergraduate college student. And 2 of them were postgraduate tertiary students. So meaning that 2 of them were just postgraduate. So graduate school, maybe working on their master's or PhDs, whatever kind of postgraduate studies they are pursuing. And then 2 of the participants didn't want to specify, what they did or, where they were at in life. So the data collection, they collected this data over the span of May to August. So between May and August of 2018. So this was only 2 years ago. And they semi-instructor interviews, 30 to 75 minutes, most about 60 minutes, like I already told y'all. So let's scroll down. None of this was really important. Nothing was too important. So this is where we get to the juicy part. So this is where y'all really want to start paying attention. Here we get to the results and the discussion. 4 main themes emerged after data was analyzed. The themes identified across the data were secrecy and silence, losing control, eschewing discomfort, meaning they were, trying to avoid uncomfortable situations, and pornography as a sexual influencer. So they put all these interviews into four main categories so that they could talk about each four. Once again, secrecy and silence. So trying to be avoidant and keep it quiet. Losing control, meaning they just didn't have control of their impulses. Issue and discomfort, meaning they were using the porn to avoid uncomfortable situations. Excuse me. And pornography as a sexual influencer. So how much the consumption of porn impacted their sexual desires and their sexual activity. Let's see. Calvin knows what he said. 4 videos at the same time. I'm beating with both hands. That's funny as hell. So we're going to start here with the secrecy and silence piece. So, all of the men discuss the secretive nature of their pornographic use. So what's a common thing with watching porn? You try to keep it a secret. You don't want everybody knowing. If you a teenager, well, I remember I could talk from experience because, porn addiction plagues my generation. Like even if the generation just above us don't understand it for real because they didn't have phones. They didn't grow up with phones and laptops and iPads. So they can't understand the gravity of porn addiction in my generation because they didn't grow up the same. For them, they had to watch porn on VHS tapes or DVDs or even magazines. Like we just go right on our phones and it was right here, So I've had a laptop. Well, we had a family laptop since I was like, 6 or 7 or 8. I got an iPod Touch and a phone when I was like 10 or 11. And I've had, touchscreen technology ever since. So me and, pretty much almost every other person I know that's within my generation, we've had technology in our hands, the ability to watch porn at the touch of a button in our hands for more than half of our lives. You understand? So that's why a lot of the older generations don't understand that this is like a real issue. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand that this is a real problem that goes on. That's why a lot of them don't understand like what NoFap is or, why we try to tell dudes to stop masturbating as much as possible because they didn't have that same problem. You know what I'm saying? So men reported keeping their use hidden from close friends, family members, and partners. Obviously, I remember when I used to, beat my meat till the cows came home. I used to do it as secretly as possible, making sure that nobody knew. You know what I'm saying? I lived at home with my mama for most of my teen years. Always did it trying to make sure she never knew. You know what I'm saying? That's just, I'm pretty sure we all did that. You know what I'm saying? Pretty sure we all did that. Yeah, just like Immune said, it's crazy because all I need is an incognito tab and 4 clicks and taps and you there. You know what I'm saying? So David here was the most standout testimony from the secrecy and silence piece, at least right here. So that's why I have it circled in red. So David says, as I started getting into more and more extreme things, it became the super taboo thing that I could never talk about, particularly when it came to anal sex. I'd be aroused at the thought of anal sex, but incredibly embarrassed at anyone finding out that's what I was into. Just very, very private. And he's 29 and he's a professional. So this was a guy who, him watching porn, it shaped his sexual desires, right? But he would never want anybody else to know that these were his sexual desires. So he would never, well, not never, but he was very embarrassed and fearful of people knowing that because of porn. He was, very into anal sex. You know what I'm saying? Very into anal sex. So let's scroll down to some more important parts. And now here it gets very interesting. So here, they keep talking about secrecy and silence. And this says, for example, when Michael's older brother returned the laptop he had borrowed, he looked Michael straight in the eyes and told him sternly to delete his browsing history. There was no other exchange of words, which left Michael feeling unsettled and humiliated. So I highlighted that because I had a similar story when I was real young. This had to be when I was like 11 or 10, somewhere between 9 and 11, when I first discovered what pornography was on the computer. I was using my dad's laptop. And I Googled sex one day randomly, like just being a kid. I Googled sex and like Pornhub was like the first link that popped up. And I just clicked it and I watched it. And for like a long time, I would just watch it every day, not doing nothing with it, just watching porn every day. And one day it left my pop's computer frozen. So the computer froze and I just closed it. And I was like, bet I'm gonna just put it away. Whatever happens, happens. So I just closed it and put it away. The screen wouldn't turn off for nothing. So the screen is still on. It's pouring frozen on the screen. I'm like 10 years old. This is my dad's laptop. I'm like, bet. We just gonna see what happens. So after that, he never brought it up, but he would like throw it in randomly, like because he was like, I know what you watching, like that kind of. But that was very uncomfortable, you know what I'm saying? Because I knew he knew, but he didn't mention it or talk about it. So it was like it was kind of not humiliating like he says here, because he was much older, but it was kind of embarrassing back then when it happened to me. Black Allies Jr. says that's how we all started, just Googling sex. Hell yeah. Just being curious as a kid, bro. Like, what is sex? What does it look like? You know what I'm saying? So here we have some very interesting words. And that's why I wrote dog here, because it got very crazy. You know what I'm saying? It got very crazy. So here we have Paul. Paul says I would watch porn at internet cafes, just choosing a computer that was not in view of other people. And then he's 39. So this is a 39, almost 40-year-old man. He used to go to internet cafes. If you don't know what an internet cafe is, it's basically a cafe full of computers for public usage. And so he would just choose a computer that wasn't in view of other people. So this 39-year-old man was just going to internet cafes and going in the corner, going to the last computer down the aisle and watching porn in the internet cafe, right? Just watching porn in the internet cafe, because that's how addicted he was. But it was ironic because he did that so that his people at home wouldn't know. So instead he decides to watch porn in public, right? But that's how addiction is. That's how addiction is, bro. Like, I've never been that addicted. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never been to that point. But this is we gonna dive deep into just how far these addictions go. You gonna see in this article. It gets very interesting towards the end. Very interesting. So Wallace says sometimes I'll spray perfume to get rid of the smell. I think I smell after I use porn and I want to get rid of it. He's 29 and he's a teacher. So this paragraph here is where it gets very weird. So to keep his viewing hidden from his family, Paul ironically resorted to consuming porn in public spaces. He was the one watching porn in the internet cafes. Despite being in a public place, Paul would rub his erect penis against his pants in a specific way that would still allow him to reach orgasm. Paul described his internet cafe experiences as getting his fix. I don't know about y'all, but when I read that this dude was rubbing his meat against his pants to bust in his pants in the internet cafe, I was like, hey, yo, dog. Like, I think when I read it, I took my glasses off and I just looked to the heavens and I was like, where on earth? Dog, you know how crazy it is to bust inside your jeans, bro? I couldn't imagine what that feel like, dog. And I'm not trying to make fun of my man's Paul here, but this is hey, shout out Malcolm X, dog. You talking about that? Yeah, that brother starving. Imagine busting in your jeans, dog, in the internet cafe. Imagine you just sitting in Starbucks and you just busting your jeans. Like, man, we gonna keep reading. We gonna keep reading. We got 40 people in here. Make sure y'all hit that like button if you haven't already. And I appreciate all y'all support, man. This is a topic that we need to talk about. We gonna get some laughs in, but this is a serious conversation, bro. Serious conversation. But we got to make light out of some things. You feel me? So we'll share some laughs here and there while we read this article together. Wallace, on the other hand, was worried that people would discover his pornography use by smelling it on him, as he thought the smell of his semen would be obvious to those around him. So dog thought that when he would bust, people could smell the nut, like in his energy field, like smell the nut in his aura. So he would spray cologne or perfume on him to get rid of the nut smell. To get rid of the nut smell, dog. Interestingly, he admitted he didn't actually think other people would be able to smell it, but he thought the smell of nut was a symbolic form of stigma. So the perfume represented a way of hiding the shame. Now we got something with Peter. Peter describes his long periods of secret viewing in the bathroom. So my dog Peter here, each viewing session would be 2 to 3 hours. But my son is pretty good. So this is a man with a family. He has a son. His viewing sessions would be 2 to 3 hours, but his son is pretty good. So I sometimes leave him to potter around for some time while I view. Basically saying he had his good behaved well. So he would say, he would let his son just, meddle around the house and chill or whatever, while he would sit on the toilet and watch porn for 3 hours. I'll be in the toilet, and if my wife knew I was doing that, she wouldn't be happy. This is a 40-year-old man. So, like I said, I'm going to try to keep this as serious as possible because I know we want to laugh. I know this is funny, but, these are real things that people deal with from things that they just can't control. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to make it seem like we're laughing at them, but we're laughing with them. You know what I'm saying? Because I know when I was young, bro, I used to sit on the toilet when I would take a dump and I watch porn, but not for no 2-3 hours, bro. Not for no 2-3 hours. Not for no 2-3 hours, bro. Maybe a video or two, but not for 2 or 3 hours. Especially he has a son, bro. He has a kid and a wife. And he's watching porn on the toilet for 3 hours. I ain't never been married. I don't know much about marriage, but I know this is not conducive to a productive marriage. I will say that. So Daniel was the one who was, oh wait, we don't have Daniel. Never mind. Daniel, we have another testimony from Daniel. So Daniel reported feeling tempted to view porn at work. So that's a whole different level of, usage. Dog was trying to get his fix in at work. He would wait until the office was empty before consuming his porn at his cubicle. So he'd be sitting at work overtime. They think he working and he's sitting there watching porn. He's staying 30 minutes after. He just waiting for everybody to leave. Or everybody on their lunch break. They said, Daniel, you want to come to the lunch bar with us? He said, no, I'm going to stay and do some extra work. This nigga's sitting in his cubicle beating off. Or he didn't say he was masturbating. He just said he was in his cubicle watching porn while the office was empty. You know what I'm saying? So we'll skip down here. First, some of the men experience feelings of guilt and shame for preferring pornography to having sex or being intimate with their partner. As an example, Philip would choose to watch porn instead of having sex. Philip says, I would definitely go downstairs on a number of nights to sleep on the couch and just watch porn. So he's saying that he had a sexual partner in the crib, but instead of being in the bed with his girl or his wife or whatever the case, he was saying, no, I'm going to just go down on the couch and I'm going to just watch, some porn on my phone and just chill for the rest of the night. This is what porn does to you, bro. You start to want the porn over the sex, dog. Like this is what's going on. This is what's going on. His wifey in the bed, in the mood. Philip, I'm in the mood. Philip, I'm in the mood. He said, nah, babe, I'm gonna just go downstairs, watch a movie. Whole time, dude watching porn. And she sitting up there lonely. Sick, man, sick. Not saying that Philip is sick, but the addiction is sick. The addiction is sick. So here we're going to go back to Paul. So Paul was the one watching porn in internet cafes, you see. So here, Paul has a wife as well. So Paul was watching porn in internet cafes while having a wife. So Paul was once an alcoholic. So he was a recovered alcoholic for nearly 16 years, right? But he felt that his porn addiction was what he put in place for his alcohol addiction, right? So he just traded addiction for addiction. 16 years sober off the alcohol, but now he's high off the porn, you feel me? Paul was so embarrassed about his porn viewing that he did not ever openly talk about it with anybody. And in an effort to maintain his self-image as a man that doesn't watch porn, sometimes he would instead watch women dancing in bikinis on YouTube music videos and reach orgasm by allowing the shower to spray onto his penis in a specific way. By doing this, Paul could feel better about himself because he had not technically watched porn or directly masturbated. So, dog, now I got to scroll up to the super chat. Calvin knows best. So, my man's Paul was sitting here watching Tip Drill by Nelly in the shower and letting the shower spray on his genitals till he busts. My man's Paul was watching Nelly music videos in the shower and nutting to the shower spray. That is insane. That is crazy, bro. That is crazy, dog. Watching music videos on YouTube, watching women dance in bikinis and reach orgasm by allowing the shower spray to spray on his penis in a specific way. I ain't gonna lie, I have never felt like a sensation from the shower running on my genitals. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if Paul got superpowers. I don't know what's going on. Because I know chicks do that. That's why chicks always got to have the removable shower head, because they, that's how chicks be getting off in the shower. But I ain't never heard no dude doing that. I can only speak for myself, but I ain't never heard no dude having a shower run on his penis so he could nut off the YouTube music videos. Dog was watching Tip Drill bussing in the shower. All right, so let's keep going. Let's keep this educational. So Paul said he would be looking forward to the instance once a day. So Paul was like, Paul was sitting here cooking, waiting for the moment where he could, nut in private. Because he lived with his wife, so it wouldn't be too many available options to watch porn at home. So he was sitting there all day waiting for that he only needed 30 minutes. That's all he needed, looking forward to it all day so he could just nut off the porn. So first, here we have, some dudes experience guilt and shame for preferring porn over the sex. Secondly, we have some of the men who view porn in and of itself, it created problems in their relationships. So we're going to continue here. Was this about Zachary? Yeah. So here we have Zachary. So here's a new character in our research here. So Zachary was a self-proclaimed devout Christian, but he did not disclose his pornography use until after they got married with his wife. So this man didn't tell his wife he was addicted to porn until after they got married. I feel bad for her. I ain't gonna lie. I got a soft spot in my heart for his wife. This man didn't tell his wife he was addicted to porn until after they got married, until after she said, I do. You know what I'm saying? Who's to say she wouldn't have said I do if he was addicted to porn and she knew it? But he said, I ain't gonna tell her. I'm gonna just tell her after the fact. What's she gonna do? Divorce me? That's what Zachary was saying. So Zachary did okay. He said he only viewed porn like 3 or 4 times. Wow, during the first year of their marriage, he only watched porn like 3 or 4 times. So that's good. You know what I'm saying? He did well, but he would beat himself so much about when he was craving that it wasn't healthy. So for a year, every time he would crave porn, just like a drug addict, when I'm itching for my fix, just like a drug addict, he would get, these unhealthy body reactions and mental reactions from being, triggered by his porn addiction. You understand what I'm saying? Regardless of the outlet, when men broke the silence about their porn use, they were met with a lack of acceptance. This scenario served to reinforce hidden use. So what we about to talk about here is when guys would tell someone or go for help about their issues, but they didn't feel like they were being treated fair enough for their issues. This is when the conversation gets serious, because when it comes to stuff like this, if you were to have a homeboy or a brother or a cousin who trusted you enough to open up to you about, I have a problem with watching pornography, You want to listen and make them feel heard as much as possible. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to laugh in their face. You don't want to make them feel bad. I know as men, we give each other tough love, but with certain things, tough love, it's a time and a place. You know what I'm saying? You can't always go the tough love route. Like these guys said, when they would break their silence, they didn't feel accepted, which made them want to hide it even more. So, just for future reference, if y'all were to have a homeboy or someone close to y'all who came out and said y'all had a problem, don't make fun of them for it. Don't laugh at them for it. Don't, you want to make sure they're heard. You want to listen. You want to sit down and talk to them because they trusted you with this information. So you want to, make that trust worthwhile. You know what I'm saying? Because it takes a lot of courage to tell somebody that you addicted to something, especially something like porn, especially as a grown ass man. So take that into consideration, man. You don't ever want to put someone down because of their addictions or their problems. So here we're talking about Michael. So Michael's a university student who used porn primarily as a coping mechanism for study-related stress, was having issues with erectile dysfunction during sexual encounters with women. So basically, for example, that would be like if I was studying for an exam and I was stressing out about studying, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna just beat my dick real quick because I'm stressing out about studying. And he was having erectile dysfunction with sexual encounters. So here we're gonna read what Michael says. Michael says, when I went to the doctor at 19, so he's 23 when he says this, but this was 19. So he's had this addiction for at least 4 years. He went to the doctor at 19 and the doctor just gave him Viagra. And he said the issue was just performance anxiety. He said sometimes the Viagra would work, sometimes it didn't. But it was his personal research and reading that showed him that his issue wasn't just performance anxiety, it was porn. He had a porn problem, and the doctor didn't tell him that. He had to find that out on his own. You know what I'm saying? So he's saying that if I go to the doctor as a young kid and he just give me Viagra, then I feel like no one's really talking about this issue. He should be asking about my porn use, not giving me Viagra. And that's why we have these conversations. Because the older generation, it's not their fault for not understanding, but a lot of them just don't get it. They don't even know that this is a problem that people have. Because they didn't experience this problem like we do. That's why we got to have conversations like this. You feel me? 51 people in here. Make sure y'all hitting that like button for your boy. And shout out to all the people tuning in, watching, all my loyal subscribers, any new subscribers I may have. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all for tuning in, soaking up this education. You know what I'm saying? Studious acts from a nigga. We might make this a series. Studious acts from a nigga. You know what I'm saying? We doing research and scientific articles, and yeah, we doing smart people things, guys. So here, after making a concerted effort to lower his porn use, his erectile dysfunction issues began to improve. So, after he started to cut down the porn less and less, his erectile dysfunction started to improve. So he wasn't having as many problems, not getting it up when he was with the ladies and all that. By having cutting in half, I can't pronounce that word. By cutting in half the amount of times he combined porn and masturbation, Michael said he was able to significantly improve his erectile dysfunction during sexual encounters. And I wrote mental here because he was still masturbating as much as normal. He says he didn't reduce the total frequency of masturbation, but he will only watch the porn for half of the instances. So that goes to show the main problem is the porn. You know what I'm saying? The masturbation is, it plays a factor, but the main driver for the issues is the porn. Because like he said, he didn't cut back on how much he masturbated. So if he was beating his meat once a day, he was still beating his meat once a day, but he was only watching porn maybe 3 times out the week. And that's when his ED started to improve. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. The porn, because I know a lot of dudes, they'll do no fap, like they'll stop masturbating, but they still keep watching porn. The porn is what you addicted to. That's the main issue is the porn. So if you doing no fap and you haven't beat your meat in 100 days, but you still watching porn every other day, that's still a problem. You know what I'm saying? So Philip, like Michael, saw help for another sexual issue. His problem was reduced sex drive. So Philip didn't have an ED problem, but he just had a sex drive problem overall. His libido was not busting like it should be. You feel me? So here this says that he went to the doctor and they just gave him a $100, not a $100. He went to the doctor and they just gave him testosterone shots. So like they gave Zach, all they did was give him Viagra. All they did was Philip was give him testosterone shots. When he got 6 weeks of shots and they were each $100. So he wasted $600 on, something that didn't do anything. He said this was inadequate. You feel me? And he said that, going to this doctor and only getting testosterone shots because it didn't work, it didn't do anything, it didn't solve the problem. That kept him from wanting to get help after that because he felt like no one would understand what his problem was. You feel me? That's why these conversations are important. So here we're going to go back to Daniel. So Daniel says, I felt like it was dismissive. It's really difficult for me talking about this topic, but it's important to do work through it. But it was so raw after that. Like, wow, I had this problem for so long and I finally step out and talk about it and I get shit on. Like, fuck this. It was very hurtful. It felt like he was coming after me from a moral perspective. So this guy, he went to a counselor to talk about his porn problems. He actually went to a real counselor, paid money to talk about his porn addiction. And he said that he felt like the counselor was dismissive, judgmental, and moralistic. So basically judging him from a moral standpoint, like, oh, you shouldn't be watching porn. That's bad for you. Instead of actually trying to talk him through his problems and trying to help his problems. You know what I'm saying? So let's scroll down. In many ways, porn is widely consumed by boys, and this is typically considered a normative part of manhood. So that's basically saying that, sexual exploration is a part of manhood, which is true. I do agree. Sexual exploration is a part of growing up as a boy and a teenager. But without proper guidance, advice, or explanation from their parents or sufficient sex education, boys simply do not know how to navigate through the sexually charged material. And that's where we mess up. Kids and teens are going to explore. That's natural. We go and explore. Just like how I said the first time I found porn was me Googling the word sex because I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it was. I just heard it from TV and stuff. But I'm like, what is sex actually? And once that started, the snowball it's like a snowball effect. You start, once the snowball go down the hill, it just keep getting bigger, keep getting bigger. You know what I'm saying? So like this says here, without the proper guidance or education, a boy or a teen don't know when to stop. He just know, oh, I like watching this. This feel good. I'm gonna keep watching. He doesn't know that this can become an addiction. He doesn't know that this can have detrimental effects on his mental state and his physical state. He doesn't know that this can cause problems that will last for years and years, decades even. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep going. Let's continue. So here they talk about, parents talking about sex and porn with their kids, right? So my man's George here says, nah, porn, nah, never. But sex, they talk about it very briefly when I was a teen. He was afraid to bring up the subject because he was just uncomfortable talking about it. And I don't think they ever thought about bringing it up with me. They certainly never tried. So that's the other thing. For me, for example, my parents never talked to me about sex. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'll say this. When I was young, like 10 or whatever, my pops taught me a little bit about, my own sexual organs, what I was going to start experiencing, what I was going to start feeling. But I've told y'all before, I didn't really talk to my dad or communicate. I wasn't really able to communicate with my dad on those kind of close basis for, like 5, 6, 7 years after that. So for a long time, it was just me and my mama. And we never once did she ever bring up sex, pornography, masturbate, like nothing. So I never had like a birds and the bees talk with my mama. You know what I'm saying? Me and my dad, I mean, I'm much older now, so we talk about sex every now and then, just on some like father son, chopping it up type junk. But I never had that birds and the bees talk from my parents. Everything I found out about sex was on my own or, from my friends. This was another very important statement I saw. So here they say, even though we're in a more pro-sex and sexualized socio-cultural context, there's a lack of direct, frank, and informative sexual education and open communication, thus creating a contradiction for these men. As a result, the participants kept their porn use hidden from adolescence and into adulthood. So this is just a long way of saying that we live in like a pro-sex, sexually liberated culture, but we don't talk about it. So it's a lot of cognitive dissonance in a lot of people's heads. We live in this sexually liberated society, but no one wants to talk about sex still. It's just like we know everyone does it and we encourage you do it, but we still aren't going to teach people about it and talk about it. You know what I'm saying? We still aren't going to do that. And yeah, Red, I'll send you the article. Actually, what I meant to do was have a link to the article in the description. So I'm going to do that. But yeah, I'll definitely send you the article, bro, so you could, read it and put your piece on it. But, this statement right here was very important because we do live in a sexually liberated society, but no one wants to teach or talk about sex like that. You know what I'm saying? That's why if you get a group of people talking about sex, a lot of people find it uncomfortable to talk about. It's just something that we know everyone does. You know what I'm saying? So here we move on from the secrecy aspect, and this is where we talk about losing control. So this is where it will hit home for more people. This is where it's gonna hit home for a lot of guys. Maybe not to these extremes because they were on some pretty extreme. Like I was reading some stuff I ain't never read before, but losing control of your porn addiction. That's where it's gonna hit home for a lot of guys. So all of the participants, all 15, reported that porn use was outside of their conscious control. So basically saying they didn't have any kind of handle on their porn use at all. It was in their head, but it wasn't in their control. You know what I'm saying? So here, David, this is David's words from, trying to abstain from porn. He says, it's funny because my brain will start something like, oh, you should look at porn. But then my brain will think that, oh, I shouldn't do that. But then I'll go and look at it anyway. That's something that we've all experienced before. Let's not lie. I know I have before. You know what I'm saying? Back in my heyday, when it was just beat it till the cows came home, like my teenage years, it was like, damn, bro, like something just pop in your mind. Like, let's just flick the hub on real quick. But then you're like, no, like, what's the point? Like, I'm not even aroused. I'm not horny. Like, what's the point? But then you just go watch it anyway. And it's like you sitting there asking yourself, like, what did you do it for? And so David describes it as an intrapsychic conflict. So intrapsychic conflict basically meaning he has, one side of his brain arguing with the other side. There's a fight going on in his head about, I want to watch this porn, but I know I shouldn't. But I feel like I should, but I know I shouldn't. That's what he means by intrapsychic conflict, also described as a tug of war. Basically a tug of war. That's why it's so stressful to have these kind of addictions, because you want to do it, but you know you shouldn't. So his temptation and craving to use porn were so overwhelming that he couldn't focus on anything till the urge was satisfied. So we're going to read what Michael has to say. He says, when I'm aroused, I have to masturbate. I literally have no control over it. It controls my decisions, man. When I'm aroused, I'm not rational. When I get aroused, I start browsing. And it's a trap I fall into pretty much every time. When I'm aroused, I do not give a shit. So basically saying he can't do anything while he's aroused. Like while he's aroused, he has to get that fix or he can't do anything. You know what I'm saying? It controls his decisions. And this says he's 23 and he's a student. So he's a graduate student. Or he could still be undergrad. It depends. But basically he's saying when he's trying to study for exams, if he get aroused, he can't study. He has to stop and bust or else he can't study. When he doing homework, can't do homework if he get aroused. He got to bust. You know what I'm saying? If he's reading his textbook or studying his textbook, taking notes, once that arousal come, he can't take no more notes. He can't read no more textbook because he has to get the fix. Just like a drug addict. Drug addicts, once they feel that urge kick in, oh, I need my fix, they can't function normally. You know what I'm saying? They can't function normally. That's why it's so hard to relieve yourself of certain addictions. So the men described it almost as an internal splitting. When we go back to the intrapsychic conflict, they described it as a rational self that doesn't want to watch porn, and then there's the aroused self, which has no control of their porn use. And then they titled this little intrapsychic conflict as an arousal imperative. So basically saying that they had the rational side of the brain telling them there's no point in watching porn. Like, what are we doing? Like, we not horny, we not aroused. Why are we doing this? But then he had an aroused self that had no control, that was able to beat his rational self. So then this is the arousal imperative. You said, when did this article come out? 2019. 2019. So this is like brand spanking new off the press. All of this research, all these interviews were done in 2018, from May to August of 2018. So this is brand spanking new. Fresh, like damn near fresh off the press type junk. You feel me? So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the lose control. So first, men discuss their lack of willpower and subsequent feelings of psychological weakness in relation to their viewing. That's going to hit a lot of people at home. So Albert and Frank reported their lack of control was a consequence of feeling psychologically weak. So they feel weak up here. They didn't just have the discipline to say no. They lacked the psychological willpower. So here, let's hear from Wallace. Wallace says, it feels really weird saying it out loud, but I'd want to stop being controlled when it came to sexual urges. Having to masturbate in certain situations, or like going to the bathroom to have a shower. I prefer it not have that control over me. I just start to feel aroused and I think, well, I guess I have to do it now. You know what I'm saying? So basically he was saying, for example, he would go in the bathroom to have a shower, or take a shower rather, and he would just start to feel aroused. And then talking about, well, I guess I have to do it now. Like there was no conflict with him. It was just, well, I'm aroused. Guess I got to do it. Just get it out the way. And though not directly communicated by the men, this perceived lack of agency with regards to their pornography use likely represents a fundamental violation of traditional masculine identity. The notions of control and self-mastery are often attributable as masculine traits within the West. So this is all a lengthy way of saying that a masculine trait that we talk about all the time is discipline, self-control. You know what I'm saying? Self-mastery, being in control of your mind. These are masculine traits that they didn't have a hold of. They had no control over their mind. So they felt like they were lacking manhood. They were losing parts of their manhood every time they lost control. Every time they couldn't control their sexual urges, they felt less and less of a man. Because like this says, notions of control and self-mastery are parts of traditional masculine identity, which I wholeheartedly agree. So here, let's hear from David. This is where he's talking about how the porn, it became something less enjoyable and just something that became a habit. Like it didn't feel good anymore. It wasn't something fun. It wasn't enjoyable. It became so habitual that it became like just something that you had to do. So let's hear from David. He says, I used to enjoy porn a lot more, where now I feel like it's just become a thing to do, somewhat of a routine that I don't particularly enjoy as much. But I know I need to do it in order to complete the routine. Something I need to follow. I know the outcome, but it doesn't give me the same buzz it used to. There's more of a dissatisfaction and disgust that seeps through the entire experience because it seems I cannot escape the process. But since there's finality to it, a specific end, then I just hide through the porn routine until the end and then continue on my day. So basically what he's saying is that he's not even enjoying the porn no more. Like, it's not even something fun. It's not making him feel good. It's not like, ooh, porn. It's like, porn. But he feels like it's something he has to do to get through his day because it's part of his routine. Like, he's saying that to him, watching porn is like taking a shower. You know what I'm saying? Like, say I get home from a workout and I'm tired as hell and all I want to do is lay on my bed and go to sleep. It's like, no, I'm dirty. I'm sweaty. I have to take a shower. Even though I don't feel like it, I have to. That's what he's saying he feels about porn. He doesn't want to watch it. He doesn't feel like watching it, but he just feels like he has to complete the routine. And since there's a specific end, busting that nut, he's just like, well, As long as I get the nut, I could just continue on my day. You know what I'm saying? Now let's go on to Frank. This is where it got deep. Frank says it's a compulsive thing. It's this compulsive thing. I feel compelled to do it. Feels like I'm not even thinking about it. It's habitual. I do not know how to describe it. Sometimes when I'm trying really hard to orgasm, it feels empty. I feel nothing physically. And then when I finish, I wonder why I even did it in the first place. Because it's not even pleasurable. That's crazy, bro. So he's saying that he's so addicted to nutting all the time, he don't even feel like the physical aspects of the orgasm. He doesn't even feel like the toe twitching and and the muscle tightening. He is just like he just nuts, like the nut just come out, no orgasm with it. And so then he's asking himself, why do I even do this? Because it don't even feel good no more. Just like a drug addict. A lot of times drug addicts get so addicted to their drugs or their alcohol that they have to just like they don't even feel high when they do the drugs no more. They're doing the drugs just to feel normal. Just like Frank said, he doesn't even feel the orgasm. There's nothing to it. It's just habitual. It's compulsive. Just like a lot of alcohol addicts, just like a lot of alcoholics, they don't even really feel drunk no more when they get drunk. They're just drinking because they feel like they have to. So it's not even a good experience anymore. They don't get tipsy. They don't feel none of that. They just do it because they feel like they have to. And that's just like Frank with this porn addiction right here. Let's continue. As opposed to porn being a choice motivated by sexual stimulation as it once was, it evolved into a compulsive and automatic habit devoid of pleasure. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I just explained. He's saying that he wasn't even watching the porn because he was like horny or stimulated. Like he wasn't saying like, oh man, I'm horny. I just gotta bust this nut off real quick. It wasn't that no more. It was just compulsive. It's like, for example, pause. It's like if I was sitting here doing this, giving y'all this presentation, and I just felt the need to bust a nut right quick. It's like I have to do it. That's what Frank is saying. It wasn't because he was aroused or sexually aroused. He just had to do it. You know what I'm saying? There was no pleasure in it. There was no pleasure in busting a nut. It was just something he had to do, which is sick, man. Like that's when it gets really sad. That's when it gets really sad, bro. So here, lastly, men reported that their viewing made them feel like a less motivated, engaged, and energized version of themselves. That's going to hit home for a lot of people too. It made them feel less motivated, engaged, and energized. So here we have Michael. He says, after I masturbate, I feel depleted. No motivation. I do not feel crisp. I like that adjective I like that adjective he used, crisp. I like that word. I do not want to do anything. I just feel low and depleted. People are talking to you, but you can't really answer. And the more I masturbate, the less crisp I feel. I do not think masturbation makes me the best version of myself. We talk about that all the time. And here I have compared to my own experience because I want to talk to y'all about how it's interesting how certain things give people different reactions. Because for me, back in my teenage years when I was just addicted to busting nuts all the time, just like a lot of us were, for me, I had the opposite problem. Well, not problem, but I had the opposite reaction. So like Michael says, when he busts a nut, he feels depleted and no motivation. For me, busting a nut was my source of motivation. You know what I'm saying? So like I wouldn't feel motivated or energized until I busted a nut. You feel me? I used to have to bust like 2 nuts before I worked out because I wouldn't feel motivated or energized unless I busted 2 nuts. So it was like I had to do that to feel normal. I had to do that to feel energy or energized or motivated. Whereas Michael, it was the opposite. He would bust and then feel no motivation. So it's interesting how a lot of people get different feelings from different things. I vividly remember in high school, bro, like over the summertime, before I would work out, I would bust like 2 nuts and I get up hella spry, like energetic as hell, going. It was all in my head though. Let me say that. It was all in my head, like the illusion of motivation. It was all in my head because I was addicted to what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? So here, let's continue. He reported that watching porn was expending energy that would otherwise be expended on sleep, studying, or engaging in social situations with friends. We talk about this all the time. All that time and energy you use watching porn and busting that nut, you could have put that into sleep. We all know we've all stayed up late before watching porn before. We've all done that. We've all done that before. Or studying. You could have put more time into your studying or engaging with social situations. So these are like my situation never got that bad to where I was like skipping out on friends and stuff. But a lot of guys, they get so addicted that they'll end up skipping out on hanging out with friends because they afraid that they gonna have an urge when they hanging out. So they just say, I'm gonna stay at home. Now let's move on to what Paul says. He says, I could earn something and be at a better place in life, but I'm just sort of stuck in a place of doing nothing, thinking and worrying. I think I do not have a family because of my masturbating. So he's 39, no family, a professional. He's saying that he's stuck in his career. He's stuck in his social life. Nothing is advancing. And he's saying he thinks that is because of his, porn addiction. And this says many of the guys in the study identify porn as the primary roadblock in preventing them from becoming better and more productive versions of themselves, as we always say, man. So now let's move on to eschewing discomfort. Many of the participants talked of using pornography as a way of blunting, escaping, and avoiding uncomfortable or stressful feelings. So they're saying that, well, we're going to get into it. I don't got to summarize. We're going to get into it in this section. So let's hear from George. Because George was talking about how the porn became his primary coping strategy for any and all of the affective discomfort he faced in life. So George says, fear, loneliness, overwhelm. I use porn to relieve those states. In the short term, it works. In the short term, it is a relief and a release. And then sometimes after release, maybe minutes, maybe hours, it just kind of feels empty. And it's not a sustainable feeling. It's a temporary fix. So that what that reminds me of is people who deal with a lot of trauma. So growing up in the hood or war veterans or whatever the case may be, they resort to things like alcohol or drugs so they can escape their feelings and so they can escape their thoughts. That's exactly what this is. He would experience fear or loneliness or be overwhelmed, and he would bust a nut real quick to get rid of those feelings so that for the next few minutes or the next few hours, he would just feel empty. He would feel nothing. And then it would come back and then he got to do the same thing over again. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue. Says participants seem particularly reactive to 4 specific affective states: procrastination, boredom, loneliness, and stress. Let's repeat those. They seemed reactive to 4 specific affective states: procrastination, boredom, loneliness, and stress. We're going to get into those in this article. So first we talking about boredom here. This is where they talk about boredom. When there was nothing else to do or when certain tasks were being avoided. So boredom or procrastination, porn was the time-consuming activity of choice. Albert says most of the time it's just boredom. If I'm just sitting at home with nothing to do, then I'll just watch porn. Wallet says, I guess for me, it comes down to boredom. It's something to do with my free time. So we've all experienced that too. You might just be sitting, chilling, watching Netflix or just chilling. And then you like, well, I'm gonna just bust a nut real quick, just because I'm bored. Like that's how it was for me when I was younger, when I was a teen. That was most of the occasions when I would bust a nut. It was just because I wasn't doing nothing or trying to avoid, like trying to procrastinate on homework or something like that. So let's scroll down. It says such pre-existing vulnerabilities include underlying depression or anxiety disorders. So they're saying that they would use the porn and the masturbating to avoid, certain underlying issues. So underlying depression, anxiety disorders, deficient self-regulation, high levels of neuroticism, or high levels of narcissism. You know what I'm saying? That's what they were avoiding, and that's what the porn was also encouraging, increasing in feelings of. You know what I'm saying? So let's continue. In addition to boredom, participants' pornography use was also triggered by experience of loneliness, isolation, or rejection. So that was one reason why I thought to do this subject that I did 2 days ago. And this right here is because I know we in quarantine. I know it can be hard for a lot of guys if y'all don't have, roommates y'all live with who y'all like, or friends that y'all live with, or just friends who live close to y'all, or y'all just don't have abundant social lives. I know y'all probably feel a lot of loneliness, isolation, rejection. And that's when I know it's hard. That's when I know it can get difficult to stay off the hub. You know what I'm saying? Fortunately for me, I live with one of my friends. I live on a campus where a lot of my friends are. So my friends, and just a lot of women in general, or I meant to say my friends, women and people in general, are just not far away. I live on a popular campus. I live with a friend of mine. I have a lot of friends in my apartment building. So fortunately, I don't experience a lot of loneliness or isolation or rejection. But I know a lot of guys do, especially in these quarantine times. You know what I'm saying? When a lot of stuff is closed, you got a lot of people scared to socialize and stuff like that. If you don't mind asking how old are you? I'm 20 years old. 20 years old. Turned 21 in May, next May. So let's continue. These were some very important things that I came across too. That's why I circled these in purple instead of put it in brackets. So here we have a word from Jason. Now, this is the first time we hear from Jason. It says, at this time of the study, Jason is a self-reported virgin and said he's never, ever experienced intimate or sexual contact of any kind with a woman. Anytime he approached a woman, he reported feeling intense, visceral discomfort. His immediate assumption was that women could feel his anxious anxiety, which would only serve to intensify his feelings of angst. On the occasions when he did sum up the courage to approach a woman, any subsequent rejection became a significant trigger for porn use. So Jason here, before we talk about what he said, Jason is a virgin who has never ever, we talking never ever had any sexual contact or intimacy with any woman. So he's never had the touch of a woman's, soft skin. So he don't even know what it feels like. Basically saying that, he would be afraid to approach a woman because of that. And anytime he would approach a woman and get rejected, he would just start watching porn even more. Like, it would amplify his porn use. So Jason says, I think a lot of times I use porn after I get rejected. Like a day after the rejection sinks in, I think most of the time my porn use is driven by my feelings of rejection. I know that's probably going to hit home for a lot of guys. Upon reflecting more deeply on his porn use and feelings of depression, he realized that he used porn to mediate such feelings, but his low mood only worsened. So he would already feel sad or depressed, masturbate real quick to feel better for a second, and then it would feel even worse. That's how these habits start. Or not how habits start, but that's how these addictions go, rather. Excuse me. So Timothy is also a self-reported virgin. Also, let's scroll up to the age. So Jason was a 23-year-old virgin, right? Jason is a 23-year-old virgin and a student. So now we're going to move to Timothy. Timothy, like Jason, is a self-reported virgin as well. Timothy has, tried relationships and they keep failing, as well as just his sexual encounters in general. Because of that, he would have a lot of strong feelings of, loneliness. And what the porn did was soothe his immense loneliness that he would feel every day. And Timothy lives alone and reported as having no friends. So Timothy here is a 35-year-old virgin who lives alone with no friends. All his relationships have failed. All his sexual encounters have failed. So this is a very hard reality to live. Like, this is like a dude's worst fear. A 35-year-old virgin living alone, no friends, no girlfriend, failed sexual encounters. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of us make these channels so that y'all don't end up like Timothy. No shade against Timothy, but a 35-year-old virgin, man, that's a rough life, man. So he says, I definitely think it's like self-soothing for me. And it's also escapism, escaping from being a single man, the not having anybody and feelings of loneliness. So he's using the porn to escape his loneliness. We come back to David. So David, they talk about how porn was a coping strategy for stress. David says, like a coping mechanism. Usually an increase in my daily life stress will spark an increase in my porn use. So basically saying that stress will fluctuate in life, the porn will fluctuate with in correlation to the stress. So when he had high stress, high porn usage. Yes, he'll Timothy 35-year-old virgin. No friends, lives alone, no girlfriend, none of that. But so yeah, let's continue. Let's continue with these sad stories, man. Let's go to Michael. He says it's a coping mechanism. And I just want to get rid of the anxiety. Just get it out my body. I don't care about the consequences. I'll deal with them later. So he's saying that he knows the porn is bad for him and he knows it's making him worse. But because of his anxiety, he's like, I don't care about the detriments of using this porn and the continued use. I'm gonna just keep beating because it's getting rid of it in the moment. That's what he's saying. It's getting rid of the anxiety in the moment, and that's all I care about because the anxiety is so bad. That's an extreme form of dependency, bro. Extreme form of dependency. So let's go here. Now we move into a different section. So we moving on from the loser control section. Now we're on the pornography as a sexual influencer. It gets very interesting here as well. I think this was the most interesting section of the whole paper. I think this was the whole most interesting section of the whole article. So here, the participants talked about how porn influenced the various aspects of their sexuality and sexual experiences. So let's hear from Michael. So Michael says that the porn would influence his sexual behavior, specifically about the acts he would attempt to recreate with women that he had watched in pornography. He openly discussed the sexual acts he regularly engaged in and questioned how natural these acts were. So let's hear about Michael. He says, sometimes I come on a girl's face, which serves no biological purpose, but I got it from porn. Why not the elbow? Why not the knee? There's a level of disrespect to it. Even though the girl consents, it's still disrespectful. So he's saying that, he nutting on girls' faces with consent, but he don't even like the way it feel. He just got it from porn. That's what he understands as sex. It's just nutting on a chick face. But he says it's disrespectful and he don't like the way it feel. Hold on. Gotta get to Burt's. You already know. Burt's Bees addict, you feel me? Oh, I ain't an addict. This is controlled consumption of lip balm. You feel me? Not addiction. Controlled consumption. So let's continue. Instances, porn provides a heuristic sexual script from which men that consume pornography can model their sexual behavior. So that's what a lot of guys in my generation do now. As youngins, including myself, I learned what sex was from porn. So when we first had sexual encounters, we didn't know nothing better than to emulate what we saw in porn because that's what we thought real sex was. It's only when you have more experiences and more encounters that you start to really figure out, understand, and feel what real sex, what real intimacy is. You feel what I'm saying? This is an interesting question. Jizbel says, at what point would you recommend he pay for sex or no? See, I say no, because that could become another addiction in itself. Like tricking like that becomes an addiction in itself. When you get addicted to just paying for women or paying for sex, then that's a whole nother issue you got to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't encourage him to pay for sex, but at 35 and a virgin with no friends, no girlfriend, that might be his only option, bro. I don't know. That it's just a hard existence to be living, man. So here, let's continue on with how the porn influenced their sexual behavior. So it says included, so they will create significant detrimental consequences for the sexual experiences of men who watch porn, including requesting particular pornography sex acts of a partner, deliberately conjuring images of pornographic content to maintain arousal, meaning that they would have to, imagine sex in their head to stay aroused with a woman, having concerns over sexual performance and body image, and a diminished sense of pleasure and enjoyment derived from sexually intimate behavior with the partner. So let's continue, because this is where it gets very juicy. Pause. Wrong conversation to be saying juicy. After years of watching porn, some of the men began to get uninterested in everyday sex because it did not measure up to expectations set by pornography. So here in this whole section, we got a lot of dogs and different color highlights because there was a lot of just weird stuff going on. So we gonna continue. Get comfortable, ladies and gentlemen, because we gonna read some very weird things. So here, Frank says, I feel like real sex isn't as good because the expectations are too high. The stuff I would expect her to do in bed. Porn is an unrealistic portrayal of a regular sex life. When I got used to unrealistic images, you expect your real sex life to match the intensity and pleasure of porn, but that just doesn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, you get disappointed. So my man's Frank here was saying that sex in real life wasn't good no more because he was so programmed to think that the sex was supposed to be like porn, you know, just hammer thrashing a chick for an hour, and then she giving you head for another 2 hours, and all that kind of, you doing all kind of hanging from ceilings, and she doing all kind of backflips and all that. Like, he was programmed to think that's what sex was. And so sex in regular life just wasn't fun no more. Let's hear from George. So George, he says, I think the expectations I have about how wonderful things should be during sex are not the same in real life. And it's harder for me when what I get used to is something that's not real and is staged. Porn sets up unrealistic expectations for sex. Now, this man is 51 and he's a mentor. So this is a 51-year-old man, in his later half in life, addicted to porn. It affects men of all ages. And I feel for George because his generation especially doesn't really understand the whole thing with porn addiction. Like, with our generation, we understand each other more because we grew up with these devices. A lot of us, been seeing porn since we was like 8, 9, 10 years old. But at 51, people his age are not going to understand. You know what I'm saying? They'll laugh in his face talking about he addicted to porn. So I really feel for my man's George here. So here, this was a very interesting concept that I had never heard of before. It says that pornotopia. So what is pornotopia? Pornotopia is a fantasy world where an endless supply of lusty, gorgeous, and always orgasmic women are readily available for male viewing. For these men, porn created a sexual fantasy world that could not be met in reality. So their sexual nature was stuck in pornotopia land, is what they're saying. Let's see if anything else is important here. Let's just scroll down. So here we hear from Albert. Albert says, because I've seen so many images and videos of women I find attractive, I find it difficult to be with women that, don't match the quality of women I watch in the videos or images. My partners do not match up to the behaviors that I watch in videos. When you watch porn very often, I've noticed that women are always dressed very sexy, with high heels and lingerie. And when I don't get that in bed, I'm less aroused. So he's saying that when his sexual encounters in real life don't match up with what he sees in porn, he's just not as aroused. It's just not the same. It's just not the same, bro. So let's continue. So here was another dog. This was a big dog moment, like dog. Like that's what I mean when I write dog. Like, wow. So participants discuss how their sexual preferences evolved as a result of their porn use. So let's hear from David. Dog number one. At first, it was one person getting progressively naked. Then it progressed to couples having sex. And from quite early on, I started narrowing down to heterosexual anal sex. This all happened within a couple years of starting my porn viewing. So basically, he's saying when he first discovered, porn or whatever, it started out with just watching a chick, maybe strip. Secondly, then it moved on to watching couples having real sex. Then it moved to anal sex, with a man and a woman. Excuse that background noise, bro. Shit irritating as hell. But anyways, this all happened within a couple years. So now this is where it got very interesting. From there, my viewing got more and more extreme. I found that the more believable expressions were those of pain and discomfort. So buckle your seatbelts. And the videos I started viewing started to get more and more violent, such as videos that are made to look like rope. I'm not going to say that on YouTube because I don't know how they react to them kind of words, but he started watching videos that looked like rope. What I was going for was the homemade amateur style. It looked believable, like a rope was actually happening. So what happened to David was his interests and his preferences got so much more extreme that, he started only watching porn that looked like rope. And when I say rope, I'm talking about this word here. That's what he was watching, and that's what he was into. And he said he liked the homemade stuff, the amateur stuff, because it looked more real, like a real rope. Like, this is how deep this stuff goes. That's why I put dog, because when I read this, I was like, dog. So let's continue. Let's continue. Get prepared for dog 2 times. This is dog 2 times. So now let's hear from Daniel. Daniel says, when you watch enough porn, you begin getting aroused by sights of penises as well. Since they're on the screen so much, then a penis becomes a conditioned and automatic source of stimulation and arousal. Now, I highlighted this in red because this was very alarming to me. He says, for me, it's fascinating just how localized my attraction is to the penis and nothing else of a man. So like I said, I derive nothing from men other than the penis. If you copy and paste it onto a woman, that's excellent. So we see what this man just said, right? This man, Daniel, said he started getting aroused just by sights of penises. Not saying that he was attracted to men, not men, but just penises. So much so that if you copy and paste it onto a woman, then that's excellent. This man said, if you copy and paste the penis onto a woman, then that's excellent. Let's continue, bro. Let's continue. Over time, their pornographic preferences evolved, and both men sought to explore their preferences in real life. David reenacted some of his pornographic preferences with his partner, preferably anal sex. That's fair. A lot of people do anal sex. That's nothing too crazy. And David reported feeling relieved when his partner was accepting. But fucking Daniel, on the other hand, let's read about Daniel. So Daniel was the one attracted to penises, remember? So Daniel, like David, also reenacted his pornographic preferences and experimented by engaging in sexual acts with a transgender woman. We gonna reread that one more time because we need an official moment of silence. Daniel, like David, also reenacted his pornographic preferences and experimented by engaging in sexual acts with a transgender woman. We gonna do a 15-second moment of silence for Daniel because he needed. I sent my man's Daniel a prayer, or David rather. I sent my man's David a prayer. Or no, Daniel, I was right. I sent my man's Daniel a prayer. I hope it helps. Send Daniel whatever you got, dog. So a prayer, positive energy, whatever you believe in. Send him something because he needs it. And this all starts from porn, dog. This all starts just from watching porn. This all just started from watching porn. From watching porn to having sex with transgender women. If you aren't fully grasping what a transgender woman is, he's talking about a woman with a penis, dog. Because let's remember, Daniel was the one who started getting aroused by the sights of penises. Followed by saying if you copy and paste it on a woman, then that's excellent. So in efforts to experience it in real life, he engages in sexual acts with a transgender woman. This all starts from watching porn, dog. When I read that, bro, my jaw fell on the floor. I was in utter and complete shock. Utter and complete shock, bro. Utter and complete shock. Transgender women from watching porn. So what that tells me is that this dude was probably watching transgender porn and probably gay porn. Well, they're damn near the same thing, but he was watching a tranny porn and he was probably watching gay porn too. All just from watching porn on our iPhones or our iPads or our computers. Yeah, bruh. Turned into a homosexual. Now, hopefully, they didn't detail whether he enjoyed it or not. What I'm hoping is that, okay, he did this sexual acts with these transgender women and hated it and said, I'm never going back. That's what I'm hoping is what happened. I'm hoping he had this experience with this transgender woman and said, you know what, bro, I'm big tweaking. I'm big tripping. I need to relax. I'm hoping that's what happened. I'm hoping that's what happened. So we gonna continue, bro. We gonna continue. So lastly, the men reported the impacts pornography had on their sexual function. Porn viewing might be associated with erectile dysfunction, decreased sexual satisfaction, and diminished sexual libido. So let's keep going. Daniel, was this the same? Okay, so this is still more of Daniel. This is more of Daniel, Mr. Aroused by transgender penises. In past relationships, he wasn't able to keep an erection. He associated his erectile dysfunction with his girlfriend's bodies, not comparing to what he had become attracted to when watching porn. Well, I mean, goddamn, Daniel, dog was watching trannies with dicks, my nigga. Like, I mean, of course, your girlfriends ain't gonna compare bodies. Your girlfriends have vaginas, not penises, my dog. So, I mean, obviously, he couldn't, he wasn't attracted to his girlfriends because they ain't had penises. Because dog was aroused by the sight of penises, remember? Dog was engaging in sexual acts with trannies. You feel me? So let's just read what Daniel has to say. My previous two girlfriends, I stopped finding them arousing in a way that wouldn't have happened to someone who was not watching porn. I had seen so many naked female bodies that I knew the particular things that I liked, and you just start forming a very clear ideal about what you want in a woman. And real women aren't like that. Well, don't you think? Who would have thought? Women in real life don't have dicks, dog. We gonna call it this. This is I love Dick Daniel. I love Dick Daniel, and he wants it from women though. That's the crazy part. I love tranny Dick Daniel. This is Daniel. So he's saying he had particular things I liked. Yeah, penises. And he formed a very clear ideal about what he wanted in a woman. Yeah, women with a penis. And real women aren't like that. Yeah, real women don't have penises, Daniel. Sorry. I'm sorry, bro. Real women don't have penises, Mr. Daniel. And my girlfriends didn't have perfect bodies, and I think that's fine. But I think they got in the way of finding them arousing. And that caused problems in the relationships. There are times I couldn't sexually perform because I was not aroused. He'd get down there, take her panties off, and wouldn't see. No, he'd take her pants off, wouldn't see no kind of print, and just lose arousal. Because he didn't like messing with vaginas. He liked messing with penises. He would notice his girl ain't had no print, and he'd instantly get disappointed. You know what I'm saying? Disappointed because she was devoid of a dick. We gonna use alliteration. Disappointed because she was devoid of a dick. That's what Daniel was going through. Daniel was having relationship problems because he was in love with trannies. So let's just keep going, dog. Let's just keep going. Yeah, man. Damn, Daniel. Damn. Not back at it again with the white vans, Daniel, but back at it again with transsexual sex, Daniel. So we gonna keep going. We almost, yeah, we pretty much to the end. Yeah, we pretty much to the end of this. Sex and arousal become things that are stimulated by or connected to certain looks, bodies, clothes, or acts, rather than a person's personality or the intimate connection between two people. So basically, what this is saying that, you know, we become more aroused by a woman when we find out who she is. Like, yeah, as men, we could look at a woman and say, damn, she fine. Like, I'll throw down on that. But as we get to know them, if we like who they are, we get even more aroused by their personality, by the connection we build with them. But with these guys, they didn't have connections with women. They couldn't find the personality in women. It was just, if they saw a chick that was bad, they get aroused and probably have to bust a nut. You know what I'm saying? That's the crazy part. They will probably look at chicks in certain clothes, or if they saw a chick with a fat ass or some titties, they get aroused and probably have to bust a nut like on the spot. Like, that's the crazy part. You feel me? So this is pretty much the end of what I went in the article. As you see, it's a lot of references. I didn't look through the references, but I'm not trying to make a meta-analysis or nothing on this paper. So we gonna stop the screen sharing. We just gonna have some brother to brother talk now. We just gonna have some brother to brother talk now. So we had an hour and 45 minutes. So I'm not gonna stay on here too long, bro. I know it's quarantine. I know it's quarantine. I know it's not a lot of socializing going on. I know, it's not as many women out. I know there's a lot of isolation going on. I know there's a lot of solitude. I know there's a lot of being by yourself for extended periods of time. I know some of y'all are teenagers, so I know it's a lot of staying in the house with your parents for extended periods of time without a lot of socializing or being with friends or hanging with women, having sex with women. So I know this is a hot spot right now to fall into some kind of porn addiction. And I really want to hone in on keeping your head on straight, dog. Like on some real tip. Pause. On some real tip. Avoid falling in that hole, bro. Avoid falling in that deep hole and ending up like Daniel, getting aroused by penises and all kind of weird, crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? I know you probably lonely. I know you might be isolated. And I'm just saying this is some dude. I'm not saying that y'all listening or lonely or nothing, but plenty of dudes out there. It might even be some of y'all listening lonely. I know some dudes right now who are experiencing a lot of loneliness, depression, anxiety because of the lack of socialization that we have going on right now. keep your head on straight, bro. Do whatever you can do to just fill up your time. Like I'm a college student, so but my semester over now, so I don't have my semester don't start back up until the end of January. So, I'm gonna have a lot of idle time, or not idle time, but a lot of time available to be idle. But I'm gonna do as best I can to avoid being idle in that time. I do YouTube. You know what I'm saying? I create content. I work out a lot. You know what I'm saying? Because that's like my main priority in life is my health and my fitness. I read books. I read articles like this here. I do a lot of studying, watching YouTube to educate myself or to learn, or just, watch content creators who I have, who I support. You know what I'm saying? When I can hang out with friends, I hang out with friends. When I hang out with women, when I can hang out with women, I hang out with women. Do as much as you can to avoid getting lonely and being bored all the time and falling into depression, because I know it's easy. And I know it's easy to fall into a porn addiction in times like this, because with a lot of guys, it's like, well, I ain't about to see nobody anyway, so I might as well just go ahead and bust one. And then you end up doing that every day. And then every day. And then it's twice a day. Then it's 3 times a day. And you look up and you busting 20, you busting 20 nuts in a day, man. 20 nuts in just looking at my phone notification, but you busting hella nuts in every day, bro. So, you got to do as best you. I'm trying to keep from laughing because it's not funny, but it's making me laugh. But do as much as you can to have some hobbies, have some friends, do some socializing, do something. Go outside and walk. I know it's wintertime, bro. Go outside and just feel the cold air. Go to CVS and just walk around, or go to Target and just walk around. Go to Meijer or Walmart, just walk around. Go to the store, talk to some clerks, talk to some strangers, man. Just get out and socialize. Be a human. Have some hobbies. Hop in that gym if you're not working out. Maybe hone in on your diet and figure out how to cook something. Learn how to cook a dish you really like. Learn how to do something, bro. Anything you can do from watching all this goddamn porn. On Instagram, if you can't control it, bro, unfollow all them IG models you follow. You know what I'm saying? On Twitter, unfollow all them I know, bro, Twitter is damn near a porn site. Unfollow all them porn Twitters you follow, dog. If you do. You feel me? Any other source, I don't know if you got to, I know it's apps out there where you could block certain websites from your browser, block the porn sites from your browser if you have to. Block the social media if you have to, if it's that bad. Some guys have it worse than others. You know what I'm saying? Like, I consider myself, I used to be addicted, but if what we just read was addiction, I was never addicted. I maybe had some over usage, but if what we read is what we call addiction, I was never addicted, because that was crazy. You know what I'm saying? That was crazy. That was crazy, dog. So from me to you, not as a content creator to subscriber, not as YouTuber to fan base, but from just Chris to you, as brother to brother. And any ladies listening, brother to sister, you know what I'm saying? Man to woman, as man to man. Stay up, dog. Don't be on here ending up like Daniel. I don't want to get no emails talking about, bro, I want to have sex with a tranny. Because all I'm going to do is call you Tranny Dick Daniel. That's all I'm going to do is call you Tranny Dick Daniel, just like we read in this article. So I don't want to get no emails talking about, bro, I don't know what to do. Stay up. Get you some kind of job or some kind of hobby. Start studying something. Start reading some kind of book. Do something. Get you some friends at the gym. Talk to some ladies at the store. Do whatever you can, dog. So that's the topic for the day, man. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Peace.